It was a lot easier to observe her when she wasn't looking. The slightest gaze made you uncomfortable, reminded you were a voyeur. She looked so that, even in her absence, you would be reminded of her presence. She expanded her mind's eye, her ways of thinking. She has to be 10 times better, so that even in her absence, you would be reminded of her presence. She was a thing to be consumed, but knowing that, she revolted. There was knowing, but knowing only became powerful with taking back. She took back so that even in her absence, you would be reminded of her presence. There was pain and anger. Anger and pain she openly expressed. Anger because she once rejected herself on society's account. She expressed these sentiments so that even in her absence, you would be reminded of her presence. She felt suffocated. She fought to breathe so that even in her absence, you would be reminded of her presence. She knows of nature's ways. She knows of its uniqueness, the unique indents in fruit, like those on her skin. She knows of those synthetic products pushed at her face to confuse her. But she is not confused, so that even in her absence, you will be reminded of her presence. Even in her absence, you would be reminded of her presence. Even in her absence, you would be reminded of her presence. Even in her absence, you'd be reminded of her presence. Even in her absence, you'd be reminded of her presence. You would be reminded of her presence. Even in her absence, you'd be reminded of her presence. You would be reminded of her presence. Even in her absence, you'd be reminded of her presence. You would be reminded of her presence. Even in her absence, you would be reminded of her presence.